Okay, so welcome to the Sit Chat, and this is a event which we have been organizing for about 7 months now, mainly to talk about some topic of interest to a startup, where the expert would present his or her wisdom on that particular topic, and there is a short Q&A after that. Now, today's topic is about strategy. So before we get into that, let me give a brief about Sit Chat. For that, I need to share my screen. Just pardon me for a second. Yeah, I think all of you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, the idea was to really look at various topics which are of interest to startups, which could be from identifying the product to business planning to choosing the structure, managing finances, retaining talent, etc. And these topics I have picked up one at a time and then have invited some expert to share his or her wisdom on this subject. And we've been doing it since May this last year. And before I introduce the topic, very short caution in terms of our intention being very noble. Of course, whatever we share here is shared by expert professionals. However, we advise and recommend whoever is using the wisdom from the Sit Chat to really consult your trusted professional partners before taking a decision to move on, so that you will always have a win-win outcome. So with that brief introduction to Sit Chat, topic for the day is startup strategy development for startups, which is going to be presented by Pavas, who is a strategy consultant and an advisor to many companies. And with that brief introduction, let me introduce myself and then hand over to Pavas to continue. My name is Dinakar. I've been doing consulting for the last consulting and mentoring companies for the last 10 years, mainly in the space of performance, excellence, and growth. And during these 10 years, I've worked with various companies of all sizes. And prior to this, I was working with Bosch for 26 years in multiple roles, and left Bosch in 2013 as a vice president to get into this venture of mentoring companies, because I wanted to create a set of exceptional leaders and world-class companies. And that's the passion with which I work. And as part of that passion, I have also volunteered in SIT to organize a SIT chat every Thursday with one expert who can share his or her wisdom. And that's what we are doing today. Welcome, Pavas. Please introduce yourself briefly and then share your wisdom on strategy development. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dinakar, for that very warm introduction of SIT chat about yourself and handing over to me. Of course, I can see Hemant and Pradeep pretty much live. Dinakar, I saw you, and it'll be good, Namrata and Ashish, if you can sort of show your videos on for at least to start off. I'll be able to put a face to a live face to a name instead of a profile picture. Yeah, I can see you, Namrata. Thank you. I can see you, Ashish. Thanks a lot. So good. I think let me just. So the structure is this. Of course, Dinakar has kicked off the chat. I will take a minute, to sort of introduce myself and what we do. I have a few slides. Dinakar and me chatted about it, about having slides or not having slides. Then we finally decided it's always good to have a few slides just to serve as a mnemonic, nothing more than that. But most of it will be talking, from my experience. And then we leave the floor for all of you to sort of ask anything, any comments, whatever. The floor is open. As of now, we don't have too many people. So I think we can pretty much have a one-on-one discussion for the next whatever time you want to take. All right. So, my name. So I'm in my third avatar, as I love to call it. My first avatar was in the corporate world. I was part of something called the Tata Administrative Service, TAS. TAS, you might have heard, is Tata's Premier Leadership Program. In the Tata Group, I worked for almost 18 years, little more than 18 years. And the first half of my career there was in business roles, getting business for the company in consumer companies of the group and so on and so forth. Then as I grew a little senior, I got kicked upstairs. I joined more corporate roles at the parent company, Tata Sons, where I led consumer practice and innovation practice for the group at large globally. Did a lot of work in India, US, Southeast Asia, almost every country in Southeast Asia I were touched. And my last role in the Tata Group was as Chief Risk Officer and on the board committees of Tata AIA Life Insurance. In that role, I also oversaw strategy and innovation for the company. So that was my Tata stint, my Tata avatar or my corporate avatar, whatever you want to call it. Then I moved into academia industry. So I've been the chief operating officer at Vibgyo Group of Schools, running about 40 schools in 13 cities in 7 states, 55,000 students across all boards, CBSE, ICSE, Cambridge, you name it. So that was my school stint. And then I also worked in the university system. So I've been the pro vice chancellor and on the board of Narsee Monjee University, running 30 colleges in 9 campuses across the country. Some 175,000 students, including digital students. So I like to say that, I've seen students right from playgroup to postdoc, almost 250,000 of them, across my tenure in the academia industry. About 5.5 years ago, I started my own company, which is what I do right now. So I run Pathfinders Knowledge Advisory. We are a bespoke culture advisory and strategy advisory firm. We bring content through some very unique formats. On the non-tech side, we use things like music, movies, theater, dance, art forms, mythology, cartoons, you name it. And on the tech side, we use things like artificial intelligence, mobile gaming, simulation games, and so on. As we speak, in about last 5 years plus, despite 2 years of COVID, I think we are doing fairly well now. We have about 25, 30 clients, all business clients. We don't do any B2C business. And all of these are very repeat clients. They have given us work year on year and they refer us, so that's the kind of, work we have been able to deliver with the clients in the last 5+ years. Of course, before starting off all this on the education front, I did my BTech from IIT Kanpur. I did my MBA from IIM Calcutta. Along the way, I've also done my executive leadership program from University of Michigan Law School of Business. I'm a certified corporate director with Institute of Directors, and I'm also certified executive coach with Coaching Australia. On the startup front, I engage a lot with SIGN at IIT Bombay. SIGN is Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Also their entrepreneurship cell. Also because I'm from IIT Kanpur, I engage a lot with the incubatees at IIT Kanpur and also the Atal Innovation Center at Narsee Monjee. So I actually work a lot with startups through these ecosystems. In one sense, there is a quality check that happens because they incubate only the reasonably good startups and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm able to do. So that's very quickly about me, what I do right now. And as Dinakar suggested, the topic for today is strategy development for startups. And I was thinking, how is strategy development different for startups? Is it really different for startups? Because if you were a very established company, I worked in the Tata Group, 150 years old company. But today, the group chairman, Mr. N. Chandrasekharan, is driving the Tata Group like a startup. In the last, especially during COVID, he has actually acquired a lot of startups, Big Basket, 1MG, so a lot of those ecosystems within the large ecosystem of Tata Group are actually startups. So would you call Tata a startup? Maybe not. But culturally, some parts of Tata Group are working like a startup. You look at Reliance for that matter. You look at Birla Group for that matter. I'm taking very, Indian companies' names deliberately because most of us think that they are like PSUs and, they operate like that. But it's not the case. I have engaged a lot with all of them. If you look at the multinational companies, if you look at Hindustan Unilever, they actually have a cell which gets into new product development, new businesses in a very structured fashion. And that part of that business is very much a startup kind of a culture, process, and everything, right? So I was thinking to myself, how is strategy development different for startups? And I thought, let's not call it strategy development for startups. It's actually strategy development for new businesses. The context is a little different. if you're incubating a startup within a larger ecosystem of a large company, established company, in one sense, the financial and the personal risks of the managers involved or the leaders involved is less. That's all. In a startup where an entrepreneur is starting on his own, there the financial and the personal risk to that entrepreneur is high, very high, in fact. That is the only difference. Otherwise, in terms of strategy development, the process of strategy development is by and large the same. Because whether you're incubating within a large established company or you're starting out on your own as an entrepreneur, the process for strategy development is by and large the same for starting a new business. Okay. So with that preamble, I have a few slides and which I will show now. So Dinakar, you'll have to allow me to share my screen. I'm just
You can share the screen, there's no problem.
yes, I'm doing that. Let me just check if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we are able to see this.
Okay, good. I also want to see some of you, so I'm just going to show the video panel on the side. Yes, wonderful. So this is great. Good. So you're able to see a screen which says company with a strategy and all that stuff. Just give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
great. All right. So I have a few slides. We are not going to take too much time on my talk. We'll try and spend more time on your questions, your comments, your thoughts, etc. on the same subject, right? I wanted to deliberately put this cartoon from Dilbert. A company with a strategy is a company which is very clear of what do they not do. You know, a lot of times, so what is strategy? Strategy is a set of choices. All of us know that. But it is not a set of choices of only what we want to do. It is also a set of choices of what we will not do. And both are equally important. That gives a lot of focus. That gives a lot of sharpness. That gives a lot of, a go-to market kind of ammunition to any startup. Whether it's a startup by an entrepreneur or whether it's a new business launched by an established company. Both of them have to be very clear that what they will not do also. And therefore, a company with a good strategy is a company which knows what it will not do. Okay, that's the first. So I'm giving some concepts and we will, of course, give some examples as we go along. I wanted to also read out this small, a small couplet from a poem by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. He says, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. It is so true for companies, it is so true for startups that given the limitations of resources, and resources could be meaning people, money, anything, any kind of resource, they'll always be limited, even for a very, very large established company. If you want to talk about Reliance, even for them, resources will be limited at some point in time. And therefore, they cannot do everything. And therefore, it is a set of choices where you have to decide what you will do and what you will not do. Equally important, right? So this is one thought I wanted to leave on this chart, that it is extremely important to know what you will not do. A little bit of, going back to mythology, and this is, a verse from Mahabharata, Asantosham Shriyo Moolam. It basically says dissatisfaction is the key to creation of wealth. So dissatisfaction from a very point of view, of course, right? And what it means is, for any new business, whether it's a startup or within an established framework, for any new business, dissatisfaction is dissatisfaction of the customer first. What is your consumer or your customer dissatisfied with? And if you can fill that gap, if this new business or this new startup can fill that gap, that will lead to creation of wealth, nothing else. The second dissatisfaction is internal. Is the entrepreneur dissatisfied with what he or she is doing? If yes, then this person will find dissatisfaction in the mind of the consumer and fill that gap and create wealth, right? So in a very positive way, This dissatisfaction leads to creation of wealth. All right. I engage with a lot of startups, and I hear, I spend a lot of time on the phone sometimes with them before I actually agree to meet them. Because phone is more efficient in terms of time and energy that you spend on it. I try to hear their story. What is their product, and what is their market, and is there an intuitive match from the product to the market? Is a startup really meeting a consumer need, or it is just internal dissatisfaction of the entrepreneur, which he has not translated to finding a dissatisfaction from a consumer's point of view, right? So and I find a lot of times, I think 10 out of 10 times, almost 8 times, I would give as high a number as that, is that this dissatisfaction has remained internal in the entrepreneur's mind. It has not translated external to finding out what does the consumer need. Is he solving a problem? Is that startup solving a problem, a consumer problem, or is it addressing a consumer opportunity which is big enough, right? I think that's the first gap I've seen in my experience with startups and new businesses. All of us know majority of startups fail. Majority of new businesses fail. And this is the main reason why majority of startups and majority of new businesses fail. This dissatisfaction is not taken outside, is not taken externalized by the entrepreneur to get into the consumer's mind and try and fulfill a gap over there. I think this is the point I wanted to make on this chart. Let's move forward. Once we have identified a value creation gap, that means the entrepreneur or the businessman has figured out, okay, there is a consumer need, there is a consumer dissatisfaction with something in their current state of affairs, and there is a big problem that I can solve, or there is a big opportunity that I can address. Then how do you do that? I'll give you an equation for this. Equation is N equal to 1 and R equal to G. What do I mean by N equal to 1? N equal to 1 means one consumer experience at a time. That means you hyper-personalize the consumer experience. N equal to 1. That means every of your customer feels that he is, or he or she is, the only customer that you have, right? And this is possible in B2C businesses. This is possible in B2B businesses for sure. Today, because of technology, this is being increasingly done in the B2C businesses also, because of technology, because of AI. You look at Google, I mean, it's a search engine, but when you go, your search results will be different from mine because it is hyper-personalized. If I go to Amazon and want to buy something, the list that comes in front of me will be different from what comes in front of you. If you go to Make My Trip and you are looking for a holiday package, the list that comes in front of me will be different from the list that comes in front of you. So this is all possible through technology. Not only that, now let us step back and move into the more physical world. Colgate, as a toothpaste, has 32 variants of toothpaste. 32 variants. At one point, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there was just Colgate toothpaste. That's it. One variant. Today, there are 32 variants. It is in one form of hyper-personalization, not hyper-personalization, but is reasonable personalization, I would say. I worked in the tea industry. In the tea industry, the taste of tea differs from person to person. We have on this, in this meeting room, we have about 10 people. All of us, I'm betting to you, will have a different taste of tea. Some of us will want it with sugar. Some of us will want it with boiled milk. Some of us want it brew. Some of us will want it with black. Some of us wanted ginger tea, etc., right? And that's a fact. Now, how do tea companies hyper-personalize your tea product for you? They do this at the packaging level. For example, a Tata tea packet, the blend inside a Tata tea packet is different in Mumbai vis-a-vis in Delhi. The same tea packet. From outside, it looks the same. But the blend inside is different because the taste of tea for people in Bombay is generally different from the people in Delhi, right? And that's how they hyper-personalize. Today, tea bags are the norm. So technically, you can actually hyper-personalize your tea experience also. If you want a strong cup of tea, you put 2 tea bags. If you want a light cup of tea, you put only half. You want it brewed, you want it boiled, you want ginger, you want masala, whatever you want, right? So in one sense, it's hyper-personalization. In B2B businesses also, of course, I mean, especially in the consulting world, Dinakar, you are in consulting world, you know it. Each one of your customers feels that they are the only customer that you have. That's the way you treat them. So n equal to 1 basically means that. It's like, I'm going back to mythology. It's like Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna used to dance with thousands of gopis. And each one of those gopis used to think that Lord Krishna is dancing only with them. But actually, that was not the case, of course. I mean, it was all, Dinakar, you want to say something?
No, only for them and only for her.
Yes, yes. So I think if a new business or if a new startup is able to do this, achieve this through some way, technology, people, resources, n equal to 1 becomes very important. Now, this is the front end of the business. N equal to 1 is talking about the front end of the business. What is R equal to G? R equal to G is to be able to deliver hyper-personalized customer experience. This startup or this new business has to use global resources, has to access global resources. Now, it could be the best talent in the world, the best funds in the world, the best technology in the world, best suppliers in the world, whatever may be. To be able to deliver n equal to 1 to its customers, this new business has to be able to access global resources. Now, the key word here is access. This company does not have to own those resources. They only have to access these global resources. Understood? So, for example, today it's all about access and not ownership. I want to travel in a Mercedes car from A to B. I don't have to own a Mercedes car. I don't have to pay for parking. I don't have to pay for its cleaning. I don't have to pay for its insurance. Nothing. I just go to my phone, go to Ola or Uber. I book a Mercedes for myself. And in 2 minutes, I will get a Mercedes Benz in front of my door, very nicely polished, with a chauffeur-driven, uniform liveried guy, driver, AC and whatever you want, right? So today's game is about access and not ownership. So when I say leverage global resources, I mean accessing global resources and not necessarily owning them, because ownership is very costly. So if you want to access the best talent in the world, there are platforms that are available. The gig economy is growing. You can get the best talent in the world at fractional costs. You just pay for the time of the talent. For example, if you want to leverage technology, there is a low code or no code technology that's available, right? You don't really have to, boil the ocean to be able to access global technology, for that matter. Global funds. There are a lot of networks which allow for access to global funding in startups, right? So the point here on this slide is n equal to 1 is the most important thing. Hyper personalize your customer experience as a new business, as a startup. But to be able to do that, you will actually have to access global resources. And that's the name of the game, right? Okay, let's move forward. This is a dumbbell. And, I'm using this as a metaphor for companies or startups, right? Any entity, any corporate entity, a startup or a corporate entity can be seen like this dumbbell. One end of the dumbbell is your front end of the business, which is your customer side of the business. The other side of the dumbbell is your supply side of the business, right? Your sourcing of resource, raw materials or suppliers or whatever it is. So look at it. So this is like the value chain of a business, right? So the raw material on the supply side is processed and delivered to the customer in the front end. So this is how a dumbbell is. Now, the shape of this dumbbell depends on your company and in the industry in which it is operating. We were speaking about tea, for that matter. So many, many years ago, almost 20, 30, 40 years ago, the tea industry used to operate with the supply side very large and the customer side very small. So it used to be like a cone. The supply side of the dumbbell was very large and the customer side of the dumbbell was very, very small. So it was like a cone in one sense. Now, what do I mean by that? So there were tea gardens in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Assam, West Bengal, wherever. And all the tea companies used to spend a lot of time and effort and money in managing those tea gardens. And whatever was produced in those tea gardens was sold in huge containers in wholesale markets across the country. So basically, they were selling whatever was being produced. Today, this cone for the tea industry has reversed. The supply side is not so important now. That is actually outsourced. The customer side of a tea company has become very, very big. So it is like an inverted cone now in one sense. Now, what do I mean by that? So all tea companies, whether you name it, Tata Tea, or whether you want to talk about Red Label, or you want to talk about any other local brands of, Wagh Bakri or Girnar or Sapat Chai or whatever it is, Chakra Gold or any brand of tea you want to call it, they are looking at hyper personalizing this tea experience for their customers. They're having tea lounges for that matter, So the tea industry has literally reversed its cone, right? I'll give you an example of another industry. Let's look at the steel industry for that matter. Steel industry focuses a lot on its raw materials procurement because steel is produced from iron ore and carbon. That's it. How it is processed is important, but what is more important is what is coming out, what is mined out from Mother Earth. Therefore, the supply side of a steel company is very important. All the strategic focus, all the effort, all the time, all the energy of the top management goes in managing the supply side of the business in a steel company. The front end of the business is relatively small for a steel company. It is now becoming a little larger because, generally speaking, the the industry is actually moving towards the customer side. But vis-a-vis a tea industry, the supply side of a steel company is much larger than the front end of the business. You look at a company like a software company, right? Let's take the name of Infosys, or for that matter, anyone. Now, for them, this dumbbell is equally shaped. It is like a cylinder. It's not a cone. For them, what is the raw material? It is talent. Basically, it's talent. What is the processing? They have to have development centers across the world. And what is their customer side? They have to deliver projects for their customers across the world. So for a company like any software company, and I'm just giving an example of Infosys, this dumbbell is like a cylinder because it's equally shaped on all sides. And therefore, the top management of such a company will have to give strategic focus to all parts of the value chain. The point I wanted to make on this chart is, depending on your company, what business you're getting into, what is the startup that is talking about, you have to figure out what part of the value chain is important to you. Is it the supply side? Is it the processing side? Or is it the customer side? Depending on what comes as your answer, you have to lay your strategic focus on that. All your time, energy, investments, thinking, any strategic decisions will have to be taken on that important part of the value chain and not everywhere else. So again, you have to limit your attention to whatever is most important to your company or that new business that you're talking about. Okay, let's move forward. Having said this, one very important part of strategy development is, objects in the mirror are always closer than they appear. And here I wanted to sort of give a small subtle warning that nothing remains the same forever, right? And sometimes, and all of us know of various stories like, Nokia and, those kind of stories that we all talk about. A lot of companies don't see what's coming, right? And they think that, they are God's gift to mankind or business world or whatever it is, and they don't change fast enough. I gave the example of the tea industry. The tea industry moved from a supply side cone to a customer side cone, right? So, and that change has happened in the last, I would say, 20 years. But some changes are very fast. Technology changes are very fast. 5 years. 5 years is also too much, I guess, nowadays, right? So the point is, you have to be always very paranoid about what changes are coming in your industry. Look at the last mile delivery industry. We were okay with getting deliveries after 2 days. I'm talking about online home deliveries, right, of groceries. But today, even Blinkit and Zepto and Swiggy, Instamart, or whatever you want to call it, in 10 minutes, I'm getting my grocery delivered at home with a discount. So the game has changed. Now, what will the companies, DMart, Ready, and so on, who are delivering after 2 days do. So they have to think of what is the extra validation that they're giving to their customers for delivering after 2 days and not in 10 minutes, right? And, when this 10-minute delivery started, a lot of customers said, we don't really need it. But today, that's becoming more and more more and more normal. Just yesterday, I want, on the 1st of January, my wife generally makes gajar ka halwa at home. It's become a tradition now. And suddenly she realized that there is no full cream milk at home. We looked at the local grocer, we looked at our milkman, nothing was available. So I just went to Swiggy Instamart and asked them to deliver, 2 liters of full cream milk so that my wife could make gajar ka halwa on 1st of January. It came in 10 minutes. So, so just 3 months back, I as a customer would have said, I don't need 10-minute delivery. But now with this experience, I'm more open to getting a 10-minute delivery and I want it. Right? So, and such changes are happening in every industry. If you just sit and think what changes are happening in your industry, you will actually come up with 2-3 points, I'm sure. And we can talk about it. The point is that you have to be very aware of what changes are happening in industry and that you have to build as part of your strategy development. I'm just going to, in the interest of time, just go back, just leave some points with you. Is, one is competition. Of course, in a blue ocean strategy kind of setup, you think about what you want to do and not really bother about the competition. But with the change that is happening in the industry, sometimes, in fact, most times, your customers may not change, your competition may change faster. Right? For example, I just gave the example of this 10-minute delivery. It was not customer driven. It was actually competition driven. But today, the customer is used to it. So what is cutting edge today will become the norm tomorrow. And that mostly is because of your competition. That's one. Second point I want to leave with you is understand the game that is being played. What game are you playing? And the point I wanted to make is you have to try to change the game you play. Zepto changed the game they were playing. And not the way you play the game, right? If you want to deliver in 2 days, you can continue to deliver in 2 days. Big Basket delivers in 2 days. DMart Ready delivers in 2 days. But Zepto came and changed the game, right? So you have to try and change the game that you're playing, not the way you playing the game. I use the word hyper personalization for customers. There is also a word that I want to use is about hyper competition, right? It's a very, very fast-paced world. And you have to look, it's like a chess game, which is fast chess. You have to plan for possible moves and counter moves. And as, one of very, very popular authors said, be paranoid. It's a book written by, it's there with me, I think, Andrew Grove wrote this book called Be Paranoid, in which he talked about that. So this is it in terms of my sharing some slides. So I'll just, while the slide share is on, I'll just leave, I'll go to this chart so that I'm able to tell you the points very, very quickly as a summary. My first chart talked about, strategy is not just what you want to do, but also what you don't want to do. Second slide really talked about dissatisfaction in the minds of the customer and not necessarily only in the minds of the entrepreneur. My third slide talked about N equal to 1 and R equal to G. My fourth slide talked about a dumbbell-shaped visual of a company where you decide what part of the value chain is important and therefore you lay a strategic focus on that. My fifth slide talked about hyper competition and the fact that you need to really worry about what's changing in your industry. So with these five half a dozen points, I just wanted to sort of it's almost 9:05. Come back to the main room and open the floor for any comments, discussion. We have more people now. We have about 10 people. Let me see if I know anyone directly. No, not yet. Anyway, so good. In fact, this is a forum for knowing people as well. So that's it from me in terms of a structured one-way communication on the subject of strategy development for new businesses. But happy to hear your thoughts or comments or any questions that you might have with your own experience, my experience we can bring in. And spend some time on that. Dinakar, over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Pavas. Thanks a lot for a wonderful, inspiring wisdom which you shared. For all the others, in case you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and then I will moderate the Q&A. Before anybody asks a question, I have one question to you, Pavas. See, if you look at any company, whether it's a startup, business, or starting business, or even a running business, when you look at strategy development, there are so many things. There's some kind of a clutter. Is there any sequence where you say that, look, when you develop strategy, you should look at customer first, or you should look at your processing capability first, your core competence first, or your supply side first? Do you have any hints on that? How do you prioritize? How do you choose where to start?
Sure. So, there are a lot of theoretical models that are available. Let me start with that, preamble on strategy development. But what really works practically in my experience is this, that I think the first is, what is the problem you're wanting to solve? What is the customer problem that you're wanting to solve? And I'm using the word problem also for opportunity, right?
Okay.
I think so. It's more like a lay of the land. What is the industry? That kind of thing. But basically, it is about what is the customer problem or opportunity that you're wanting to solve. That's the first step. In fact, that should be the inspiration to do anything more. The second step is to size it. Is that problem large enough? Or can I just a mom and pop shop can solve it? I don't have to really get into it. I don't have to spend time, effort, money on that problem, right? So if the problem is large enough for you to enter, then you get into the brass tacks of putting things in place, in terms of putting the building blocks in place, right? Once you have figured out the customer problem, second step is you have sized it. After that, you have to decide your go-to-market. Now, for your go-to-market, there are basically 3-4 things that are very important. One is your product. What will you offer this? Arun, you have a question, but let me just respond to Dinakar, and then can I come back to you then?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So the first is a product. What is the product that you're going to go to market? And there are two types of products here. One is, what's your product portfolio? Second is, what is your go-to-market product? Right? And there are two different things. I'll give you an example, very, very simple example, right? You are, let's say, in a vegetable market, and almost everyone is selling everything. Your potatoes, onions, tomatoes, everything. But there is one shop somewhere which is selling zucchini and, very high-end exotic imported vegetables, right? Which you put in a nice Greek salad or something like that. There's only 1 or 2 such shops in a market. Now, when you go to that shop, you buy, you're going to the shop because you are a customer for that kind of stuff, and you're attracted to that kind of stuff, and you're willing to pay the price for that kind of stuff. You buy that, and then that sabzi wala will ask you, sir or madam, what else do you want? Yeah, I was looking for some potatoes. Oh, I have. Here, take it. So this guy's go-to-market is foreign, exotic, imported, high-end vegetables. That's his go-to-market product. But his product portfolio has everything, right? So as a startup or as a new business, you may want to have a nice portfolio, large portfolio of products. But what is your go-to-market? What will you attract the customer with, right? What is it 1 or 2 things that you attract? So by product, I meant that. One. Second is your pricing. How will you price your product? So typically, as a new business or as a startup, in my experience, I have seen is, the point is to first get penetration. And that's a good strategy to acquire customers. A lot of startups give discounts because they're funded and all that stuff. But I think pricing is also very important. If you price yourself very high, then you will never get that market. If you price yourself very low, then you're always going to bleed. So you have to find that sweet spot of price point that you want to price your product with. So that's the second part of your strategy development. The third is your access. How will you source your customers? What is your marketing strategy? What is your sales strategy? Right? I think this three things, if one is able to crack as part of strategy development, then I think it's sorted. So one is, what is the customer problem? The most important thing. What is the size of that problem? And then product, pricing, and access. Finally, then you have to resource your business. That means you have to get people, you have to get money, you have to get machinery, and whatever your business needs. So that's funding and all that stuff. I think if you have these building blocks in place, you're good to go in terms of strategy development. Execution is another ball game, which we are not going to talk in this session. But execution is a different animal, equally important animal. Sometimes companies have
more important.
Yeah, sometimes companies, and you're an execution man. So companies have very good strategy, but poor execution. Result is zero. Companies with average strategy, but very good execution will be successful, reasonably successful.
Correct.
There are very few companies who have very good strategy and very good execution.
Very good execution.
So those will always be there, but there will be exceptions.
Correct.
I hope I've answered your.
I think it is quite interesting to say that the problem being solved, size of the problem, go to market, strategy, then pricing, then after that, there you said product, pricing, and access. So this entire thing doesn't need big money, isn't it? but then, lot of startups are finding reasons to get a fund without having answered these three questions, three primary questions. The problem starts only when they come to resources. And what do you think needs to change for startups to say that, look, I'm going to focus on these three questions, which are fundamental. And once I am convinced with the answers, only then will I go to the resource part of it. What do you think is hindering?
Yeah, in my experience, Dinakar, and we'll come to Arun very shortly. Arun, sorry for that. But in my experience, majority of startups, majority of new businesses are not able to answer the first question: is what is the customer problem or opportunity are you addressing? It is there in the entrepreneur's mind. It is just wishful thinking that the customer has this problem. There is no market research done. There is no data that is on the table. There is extremely poor understanding of the customer. So it's just fashionable to do a startup without answering the core question of what is the customer problem you're solving. Right? If that is answered, I think the rest of it will generally fall in place. I think Arun has been waiting.
Just hold on, Arun. Just hold on, please, for another minute or two. See, just a follow-up question. You said that when you spoke about the series of choices, what you want and what you don't want, you said that many a times the startup entrepreneurs or the business entrepreneurs have some idea in their mind that they are solving some problem, but that idea remains in their own mind, and that really doesn't get transferred to a customer, or it doesn't get the customer perspective. What needs to be done so that the startup entrepreneur would transfer the idea or the assumption which he has got or she has got, validated that it is really a problem very quickly so that he can move on to the next idea?
I think the answer is to spend time with the customer. If you look at the startup world today, 50% of graduating batches are starting startups. Now, what experience do they have? What life has they seen? They are just out of college. In my personal opinion, that's a wrong time to start a startup. They should actually, get into a normal corporate job, get some business experience under the belt, see life, go through the ups and downs of life. And, then once they have both, they have financial stability as well as some maturity, is when they should get into a startup, frankly. But today's world is very different. The point I wanted to make, I have nothing against the youngsters getting into startups. And a lot of startups are also, successful startups are also started by youngsters, by the way. So but those are exceptions, right? In my experience, the problem is not spending time with a customer, whether it's a youngster or whether it's a seasoned business professional. youngster, it's understood why they are not able to spend time with the customer, because they have not seen enough life, right? What will you expect from a 20-year-old? The problem is lesser for a seasoned business professional, because that person has seen life, has gone through the ups and downs of both professional and personal life and so on and so forth, has seen and interacted with many people. But what happens is, in a established company, when a new business is starting, and that is driven by the aspiration of the top manager, this top manager has stopped visiting the markets many years ago. So that person may have visited the markets 10 years, 15 years ago, and that's why he became senior, because he was good, or he or she was good. But since this person has become senior, this person has stopped spending time with the customer. And then he or she is out of touch with what is happening, what is the customer's mind, saying, or that kind of stuff. So the basic problem, whether it's with a youngster or whether it's a failed seasoned business professional, is that they don't spend time with the customer. And because of that, they are not able to get what is the customer problem they are solving.
I understand. It's a very interesting discussion. Arun, over to you, please. Introduce
Arun,
yourself and
your
ask the
question.
question, Arun.
And can I see your face for a minute, so that I'm able to put a face to the name?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thanks, Dinakar. Thanks, Pawas. Pawas, you and I have connected briefly on WhatsApp. We are both alums of the same B school.
Oh, wonderful. Which batch?
I'm 2013 batch. I am Calcutta.
Okay, I will check that. Are we on LinkedIn, connected on LinkedIn already?
LinkedIn, also on WhatsApp. So
Okay.
I'm a professor at I am Calcutta as well. I teach product management, and you and I connected
Yeah,
for some sessions.
I remember. Yes, now I remember. Wonderful.
Right.
Good.
Great. So thank you so much for the session. I have, in fact, now I am heading a startup which is also by an IMCAL alum, 85 batch. And some of the, I've worked at large and small companies, Microsoft, Ola. I've been a consultant with McKinsey, and so on and so forth. Okay. So my question is, you had spoken a little bit about competition and so on. So my question is, people tend to make a mistake in how they define competitors. And usually you aren't out competed by a better player, right? Smart enough people can stay in the game, right? So the competition to Inox is not PVR. The competition to Inox is Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So you run the risk of, hey, suddenly the world around you changes in such a way that what you're offering is no longer relevant or no longer needed, right? Cash, there would be ATMs. There are white labeled ATM business companies. They went out of business from 2016, 2017 onwards when people switched en masse to UPI, right?
Yeah.
The problem was not another ATM company. The problem was the game changed, right?
Correct.
How do you stay on top of things like this? And this,
right.
I mean, whatever strategy you can make, this is
right.
really
That's very pertinent point, Arun. And I wanted to, say hello to Saurabh Pandya, Dr. Saurabh Pandya. So Saurabh.
Yeah. Hi, Baba. So nice to see you.
Yeah, so Saurabh is a faculty at MIC,
Mica,
Ahmedabad.
at Mica. Yeah.
But
we used to connect when I was a faculty in IIM Nagpur, and prior to that in XLRI. So coincidentally today I'm sitting in XLRI because I have some sessions here tomorrow. So I'm teaching.
Saurabh, it would be great to connect with you if you could connect on LinkedIn, or you could drop your credentials here. It would be great.
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
Wonderful. So this forum is already serving its purpose of networking. But anyway, Arun, thanks for that question. So I just wanted to respond like this. You are right. So how does an entrepreneur or a top leader of a new business see the competition in his or her own mind is very important. For example, you said the competition for Inox is Netflix. Let me take that further. What is the competition for Netflix? And
probably
we all know
T20.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, Netflix if you actually read Hastings and the founders of Netflix, what do they think as competition is? They say that sleep is their competition. Sleep,
or even sports. Kids and adults going out to play in the park is competition.
So when somebody is binge watching Netflix, that person is binge watching in the middle of the night, and that person is feeling sleepy. So sleep is a competition to Netflix. And I'm going to take a step forward. What else is competition for Netflix? It is the loo break. They have actually formally said so. So going to do susu is a competition for Netflix. Because if this person is binge watching in the middle of the night at 12 midnight or 1 a.m. or whatever, and this person gets up to go to the washroom, most likely this person will not come back to Netflix and will just go to bed and sleep, right? So they have actually formally said that competition for Netflix is sleep and, loo breaks. And they have customized their entire content strategy, basically their product strategy around this. So they have made
They are fighting biology, which is a hard thing to fight.
Absolutely. So and this content strategy, the internal push by Netflix on themselves to create content that is so engaging that you don't want to sleep or you don't want to go even for your loo break is, removing every other competition from them. So if they have taken care of this competition of sleep and, as you said, biology, then every other competition is by the wayside, right? Right? It doesn't matter what is T20 doing or what is Inox doing or whatever it is. Because if they have taken care of this core competition, then nothing else matters, right? So, but it is in the minds of the very, very, let me say, intellectual founders. Very few people are able to do this. Mostly people will say,
similar kind of company.
Yeah.
I mean, Inox will say PBR or Reliance screens or whatever, right?
Right. Some people make some remarks about it, anecdotes about it, but they don't take it forward in terms of actual strategy development for that business. Right. They just talk.
In fact, there have been so many papers, including this one called Marketing Myopia, which talks about railways, right? Yeah. Railways keep on defining themselves to be in the business of railways and not in the business of transportation of goods and people, right? Yeah. Several times they have been pretty much bailed out by the Indian government because they are defined as a monopoly. If they were left to open market, they would have probably been killed by now.
So today in India, interestingly, the railways, the railway pricing has increased, right? They have done away with senior citizen pricing, and there is this surge pricing and all that stuff that is happening in Indian railways now. So the high end of railway tickets is almost as costly as a low end of a flight ticket. And now that the flight fares soaring, so there was a time when flight fares were low and the railway fares were high. So they were almost competing with each other, right? So a lot of people started flying. Now, what has happened in the last season in 2023, especially after Go Air went bust and, all that stuff, there are only 3 airlines now: Indigo, Vistara, Air India. That's it. Because of this, the airfares have gone up through the roof. And a lot of people during these vacations, Diwali and Christmas, New Year vacations, started taking the trains. So in India, it's a very, very live example of who is competing with whom. Indigo is not competing with Vistara or, Air India. It is competing with second, 2-tier AC of Rajdhani in one sense.
Right. So the question is, how does someone stay on top of it? Because
it is the leader who has to do this. Mostly, in most cases, it is a leader, whether it's the founding
founder or CEO,
founding entrepreneur or the business head of the new business in an established company. It is that person's thought.
True, they risk being overly. They risk being too tight or too loose. If they say, the world's problems are what I'm trying to solve, then you are essentially setting yourself up against the rest of the world. Or it could be too narrow and say, hey, there are just these 4 competitors that I'm. So walking that line takes iteration. Yeah. You can't get it right at one go.
Correct.
And takes a lot of maturity, I'd say. Also a lot of luck.
Yeah, thanks. So KRS, you have a question. You're on mute, KRS.
Yeah, sorry for that. Good evening.
Please introduce yourself, KRS. Then ask the question.
Sir, I am Sanjay. I run a service-based industry for automobile in a place called Hosur here. Okay, as you rightly said, the competition does not come directly from your, the co-partner or the co-companies which are running in. The more we dig into the details and then we see, yeah, as you rightly said, we have a customer problem. We keep working on it. The competition comes from the resources that we have, the inside resources that we have sometimes. Like you have a strategy of taking some 2-3 customers, work parallelly with them, but with the stipulated period of the services that you do, we are not allowed to have a flexible kind of a resourcing there, right? We are running with a fixed overhead. Say we deploy some 10 people for doing the job, it is going to be the 10 people. And with the given amount of duration, there are only 8 or 9 hours of flexible work that is being allowed in the particular stations also. So yeah, I am also seeing that how to tackle this point of the resources, are how to keep them motivated, was also stays as one of the biggest competition that we have. And due to which we may need to have different strategies now, right? For instance, we were actually working with all domestic suppliers being supplied to the particular location. Now we said, let's keep a push on domestic at last. Let's start focusing only on the export business that we get, or the import parts that we get. We start inspecting them and then feed their lines. So this is also becoming little challenging in the current environment as well.
No, very interesting problem you're facing. So I think a lot of companies have tried to solve this by using concurrent engineering of manpower, not of machine, but of manpower. So it's like a relay race where they get some packet of work done and they shift it to across time zones and get it done from somewhere else. And then it comes back to this time zone. But yeah, I will take a question from Arpit Agarwal.
So I have a question.
Arpit?
Hello. Pauji, can I talk?
Arpit is talking. So who else?
Yeah, Arpit, can you please, Arpit, where are you? Arpit.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, please introduce yourself and then ask a question, please.
Sure. So, hi, Pavas. Basically, I have started my startup recently. We are doing a startup in the we are a SaaS tool. We are building a SaaS tool in the generative AI space. So, my question is in being a SaaS tool. So, say for example, how do we define a minimum viable product? Basically, as a SaaS tool, people need an end-to-end solution for a SaaS tool. To switch from one SaaS tool to another, they need a full end-to-end solution. So how do we define a minimum viable product or minimum go-to product in a SaaS company like this?
I think, I won't have a very direct response to that question, obviously, but I think you'll get your answer by spending time with your customer. Take your customer, spend some time with them, ask them this question in a very informal setting, maybe spend a day, maybe even a week, literally living the life of your customer, right? Whoever your biggest customers are or whatever it is, do a customer immersion of yourself, right? Take their permission, be with them, shadow them for 1 week, and you'll get your answer. That's my belief. I won't have a direct response to, how do you have a minimum viable product for a, full suite SaaS product. But I think the route to get to that answer is customer immersion.
So basically, just a follow-up question. Basically, I have interacted with a lot of customers. So some customers want some features of the SaaS tool. Some customers want some features of the SaaS tool. And building a whole end-to-end solution will take a lot of time to build a whole product. It will take a lot of time.
Sure.
So how do we start a revenue basis on the with a small product or with a small go-to-market product? What would you suggest?
I would still go back and say that, you may be asking a question to your customer, they may be responding in English. But that's not what I meant by customer immersion. You actually spend time with them across the entire organization hierarchy, right? From the guy who's deciding to the guy who's going to use the SaaS product, your customer's customer maybe. I think that's where you'll get your answer. I won't have an answer in this forum for that question right away. But my strong belief is that you'll get your answer by spending time with the customer. And that does not mean that you ask a question and they respond to you in English. Sometimes they will not say what they want to say, or they may not even articulate it in English. You will have to just observe them and figure it out whether what they are really, how can they use your product, which is not full suite, but a minimum viable product, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Arun, do you have any
Fauzi, I have
further
a
question?
question.
I
Dinakar sir,
think we are
Yeah, just hold
Dinakar
on.
sir, one
Let
at
us
time
check
now.
with Arun, and then I'll hand it over to you last, Amar, for concluding also. Arun, do you
Yeah.
have a question?
Yes, I do, and I understand we are bang on time, so I'll keep it
Yeah,
very
please
short.
go on. Please go on.
Right. So, Powers, most startups typically start out by capturing one major client, right?
Yeah.
And then they try to diversify to more clients and things. So there's always a risk that you essentially become like the extended arm of that key client, and you're at their mercy, right? How do you tackle this kind of a situation?
So, if you're referring to a B2C kind of context, there's some whiteboard that's coming here.
I don't know who put the whiteboard.
Dinakar, is it by you or?
No, I didn't do any whiteboard. Nakpal, Hemant Nakpal started the whiteboard, so we need
Okay,
to...
can we? Yeah.
Yes, I tried removing it. Just removed it. Is it removed now?
No, it's not gone yet.
Yeah, now it is
Gone now. Okay. So, Arun, if you're talking about a B2C context, maybe I will extend your question to meaning that one type of customers. And if it's a B2B, then you're basically meaning what you're saying, which is basically one customer, one large customer, or one pilot customer that you're talking about. So the risk is always going to be there. But I think, I have experienced that a lot of startups or new businesses continue to be in a pilot mode for too long. I was speaking to a startup just yesterday, and this person has spent 5 years just doing pilot in 2 pin codes, some kind of last mile delivery kind of idea, where his vision is to actually address 120 cities in the country. For 5 years, he's in 2 pin codes in Agartala. So the point I wanted to make is, you have to cut off the pilot at some point in time, and when, etc. is a question that I will not be able to answer. There's no, it's a management call, but there has to be a reasonable time by which you actually move from a pilot to either scale up or close down, right? You can't keep on doing pilot. So the response to your question, Arun, would be that once you are doing a pilot with one customer or one type of customers, it is very important to scale up fast. There's this saying that you think big, start small, but scale up fast. Think big, start small, but scale up fast. And if you do that, then you remove the risk of being tied to one type of customer or one customer.
Thank you so much, Pawas. That was really very nice, nice conclusion. And before we end, I would like to hand over to Amar to ask the question or comment and then conclude the session. He's been our mentor and advisor and kind of a guide. Over to you, Amar. You're on mute, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, Dinakar sir. Pawas sir, good evening. I have a question for you. Is the customer underestimated for the failure of entrepreneurs? What do you have to say?
Is the Indian customer underestimated?
Global, yeah, for the entrepreneurs' failures.
No, so if you can reword the question, what I understood is,
Are we underestimating the customer for the failure of entrepreneurs, for being entrepreneurs? Some of them.
No, Indian customer, whether any customer, whether Indian or
any customer, yeah, globally, the failures.
A customer is king. I mean, the reason for a business to exist is the customer, and not the entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is only providing a service, a social service at cost, monetarily to the customer. If the customer doesn't buy a product or a service offered by the entrepreneur, that entrepreneur is a failed entrepreneur. Simple. So the reason for business is customer, not the entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is only a vehicle. So the customer will never fail. It is the entrepreneur who will fail. Always.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also your concluding words, Amarji. Then we will close
Yeah.
our session.
Good evening to all. Pauji, it was a wonderful talk by you and how business can grow. I think so. Innovation is the key to success. And customer satisfaction and value creation and building global leverage through resources. I think so. This is the best way how one could grow. You have shared your thoughts so wonderfully today. I think so. Great learning that I have will follow from your talks today. I'm basically into a different field. I'm not an IT person or a software person. Basically, I'm more into a very specialized field of American bridal and silk furnishings. So I've been in the industry for 30 years. So I know we have to give quality value for money.
Yeah.
Value for money. And I think so. I follow MTR as my role model because any person coming to Bangalore would definitely love to go to MTR again and again. He has that confidence. We need to build that confidence with customers with a quality product and value for money.
Sure.
I hope this will bring a lot of success for everyone if you understand this regimen of giving a value for money. Thank you so much for your talk today, Paul.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're from Bangalore, sir? You're from Bangalore?
No, I'm based out of Mumbai.
Wow, so nice to hear you today, sir. So nice to thank you for spending so much time to share your thoughts with all of us, sir.
Pleasure.
Look forward to hearing more from you.
Before we go, would everybody like to switch on their cameras so that we can take a screenshot of all the people present? Those of you who want to, otherwise it's not a mandatory thing.
Yeah, I'm going to take a screenshot now.
Yeah.
And you can put on your smile and say cheese. So 1,
yeah, okay.
2,
cheese.
3. Yeah. So before we go, I just want to share a summary which I did, which I want to start from this time onwards, so that that would be also part of the video. I think you can see my screen. I just want to reiterate this. Strategy is just a series of choices, what we do and what not to do. Make every customer feel that he or she is the only customer, which is hyper customization. Then you said access global resources to leverage the best available for serving the customer. Identify and focus on the maximum leverage area between sourcing the materials, resources, processing the product and service, and serving the customer. And this is something which was very important to me. The mandatory low-cost, high-value activities for any business are identifying the validating the problem being solved, also validate assumptions, establishing the size of the problem to confirm the viability for starting a business, define go-to-market strategy with product and services, the product and service to attract a customer, pricing to be profitable and to ensure penetration needed, and finally, how to source the leads. Then think and work on the resources needed. That means there's no point in working on the resources needed, building the organization before answering these questions. That I think was the biggest takeaway for me. I'm sure for many entrepreneurs, many startup guys, this will be very, very important. And it's some kind of a wisdom or a common sense, which is many a times forgotten. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dinakar, sir. Welcome.
And see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
thank you
so
much. Thank you, Paulji. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. मिलेंगे आपसे in February.
And thanks Saurabh and Arun.